Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about complementary and supplementary angles. We're going to talk about how to identify them. We're going to talk about how to solve for missing angles, and we're going to talk about how to solve for x. So, I have up here just the definitions of the two. So, a complementary angle, the definition is it's going to be either of two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. And then for the supplementary angles, it's going to be either of two angles whose sum is 180, right? So we think of it as two angles that can either add up to give me 90 degrees, or the measure is going to add up to give me 180 degrees. And so you can see I have some down here. And all of these are, I guess you could say, connected in some way, or, you know, they're touching. But that's not, I mean, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. If I have a complementary angle, two complementary angles, and I know that they're complementary, I'm told that they're complementary, they don't necessarily have to be touching or right next to each other even, right? So if I said something like, right, so let's say I just had three different angles out here. I had angle A, angle B, and angle C. And of course, I didn't measure these out, but I just, you know, as an example, we're going to assume that A is 45, B is 45, and then we're going to let C be about, 135, right? And so even if I just have two angles like this, they're not connected in any way, I can still say that angle A here and angle B are complementary because I can see they add up to 90 degrees. You see that? So when I'm down here looking, it's asking me to name the relationship, see if they're either complementary or supplementary. One way that we can do this, right? So we know that 180 degrees makes a straight line, and we know that 90 degrees makes a right angle. Right, and so it makes it a little bit easier for us because if it's a right angle, right, we know we're probably going to have the little box representing that, right? That's not necessarily always going to be the case. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily always going to be the case that it's just complementary, right? Because we could have something that looks like this. Right, so we could have angle A here and angle B here, right? And it's asking us to name the relationship between the two. Well, if you look, angle A and angle B, even though we do have that little box there in the corner, they make a straight line, right? If we put those two together, they actually make a straight line. So those would be supplementary. So don't necessarily assume just because we see the little box that it's automatically going to be complementary, right? But that's just kind of an easy way to look at it. So when I'm looking at these angles here, right, I kind of just want to see angle A and angle B. Does that make a right angle or does it make a straight line, right? And we can kind of see here that those two make a straight line. So we're going to say those are supplementary. Right? And then for number two, it's kind of the same thing. So we have angle B and angle A, and if you look, those make almost a perfect half circle, semicircle, and it makes a straight line. All right, so those are going to be supplementary as well. On down here to number three, right? So we have A and B, and you can see here angle A, angle B, right? Makes a straight, or I'm sorry, it makes a right angle here. And again, you can see we have it marked as a 90-degree angle also. So that's kind of a easy way to tell. Right. And so here we have the angle marked on the opposite side, right? So I know this angle over here is 90 degrees. But it's asking me about A and B on the other side, right? Well, if you look, this angle plus B plus A makes up this straight line, right? So I know if this side is 90 degrees, well, if I do 180 minus 90, right, I know that this other side over here has to be 90 degrees as well. So even though it's not marked with this box, right, we still know, we can still figure out that this side is 90 also. Well, if A and B are equal to 90 degrees, right, we know they're going to be complementary. And then our last two down here, we have 5 and we have 6. So again, we have A and B are both marked on this side as a right angle. Right angles are 90 degrees. 90 degrees is complementary. And then last, we have angle A and angle B. And so if you look here, it's not marked, and together those two do make a straight line. So we're going to call those supplementary. So we can use the definition of complementary and supplementary to be able to solve for missing angles. So even if I don't know what type of angle, if I'm not told what type of angle it is, I know I can figure that out. So here, if we look, we have these two are marked as a right angle. So I know that this entire thing has to be equal to 90 degrees, right? So it doesn't matter what they are, I know they're gonna have to add up to 90 degrees. So I can make an equation out of this. I can say 54 plus B equals 90, right? This angle plus this angle has to equal the whole 90 degrees. And so then it just becomes a simple algebra problem, right? I'm going to subtract, I need to solve for B. So I'm gonna subtract 54. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. And so 90 minus 54 gives me 36. On this side, I'm left with B. So this angle here, B equals 36 degrees. And we can kind of check that and just kind of look at it logically. Is angle B smaller than the angle that's marked 54? And it is, right? You can kind of see that. So for number 8, right, these two make a straight line, which means we know they're going to be equal to 180, right? So again, whatever those angles are equal to, it has to be equal to 180 degrees. And so I'm going to say this angle plus 24 equals 180 degrees. And then again, we just have a one-step problem. I'm going to subtract 24. Subtract 24. This cancels, and I'm left with B equals 156 degrees. And again, we can see that 156 is very close to 180 degrees, right? And so you can kind of see this angle B right here takes up most of the space, right? So this 24 is just a little bit angle on this side, but B takes up most of the space, right? And it should. 156 is a lot bigger than 180. Alrighty, I have 2 more down here. So again, just by looking at these, I can see that B and the 38 degrees, they both together make this straight line. And so whatever these two equal has to be equal to, or add up to, I'm sorry. Whatever this angle is, these have to add up to 180 degrees. So again, I'm gonna say this angle, B, plus 38, those together should equal 180. So what does B equal to? Well, easy enough, right? Same thing we just did on the last one. I'm going to subtract 38 from both sides. Subtract 38. I end up with B equals 180 minus 38 gives me 142. Oh, there we go. And then for this last one, again, we have a supplementary pair of angles, right? So B plus 52, can you see those two combine together to make a straight line? So again, it's going to be equal to 180 degrees. So I can say this side B plus the 52, those together have to equal 180. And then it becomes just an algebra equation. I'm going to subtract 52, subtract 52. I end up with B equals 128. So again, we can use the definition of complementary and supplementary angles to also solve for x, right? So I can figure out what each of these angles are, and then I can also solve for x. So if I look at number 11 here, I have 130 degrees and I have 2x plus 8, right? And my directions say to solve for x. So there's a couple ways that we can do this, and so we're gonna kind of talk about that. So one way is doing it the same way we did on the last set of problems, where I took this angle right here, the 130, and I take the 2x plus 8, right? And together, I know those have to equal 180, right? So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say 2x plus 8, right, plus 130 equals 180, right? So this angle, smaller angle plus bigger angle equals 180 degrees. And so then it just becomes a simple algebra problem, right? 1 or 2 step algebra problem. So I'm going to combine my like terms, right? So I only have one x, well I have 2 x's, but I only have one term with an x in it over here. So I have 2x, and then I have 2 constants, right? 8 plus 130 equals 138. And then I'm going to subtract 138 to get x by itself. I'm going to get rid of the 138, subtract 138. I end up with 2x equals 42. And so then x equals, divide by 2, we end up with x equals 21. Right, and our directions say to solve for x, so we are done. So the other way that we could solve these, so looking at number 12, right, we can see that this is a complementary pair of angles, right? They're going to add up to 90 degrees. And so if they add up to 90 degrees, and I know that this side is 31, well, that means that this side has to be what? Well, let's do 90 minus 31, and that gives us 59. Right, so I know that this side right here is equal to 59 degrees. Well, they tell us that this angle right here is 4 plus 5x, right? But we just figured out that it's equal to 59 degrees. So if I'm supposed to solve for x, I can just set these two equal to each other, right? Because this angle equals 4 plus 5x, but this angle also equals 59 degrees, right? So I'm going to say 4 plus 5x equals 59. And then we solve. So I'm going to in order to get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 4. And I get 5x equals 55. And then last, we're going to divide by 5. So I end up with x equals 11. So either one of those methods will work. You can either set your 2 angles, add those up, and set them equal to 180, or you can figure out what your missing angle is, and then just set your equation equal to that, right? So either one, I don't think either one's shorter than the other or easier than the other, really. So down here, if we wanted to do it, we can kind of flip-flop the ways that we did it. So for this one, I know these 2 angles, you can see 2x plus 8 and then 104. Those 2 angles add up to, they give us a straight line, right? They create a straight line, so they're going to add up to 180 degrees, right, all together. So if this side right here is 104 degrees, what does this side over here have to equal? Well, again, we can do 180 minus 104, and that gives us 76 degrees, right? So this side over here is going to be equal to 76 degrees. Well, it's equal to 76, but it's also equal to 2x plus 8 degrees. Do you see that? And so again, I'm going to set these two equal to each other just because my directions tell me I need to solve for x, right? It's not necessarily asking me to find the angle, it's asking me to solve for x. So we're not done. We're gonna set these two equal to each other. I get 2x plus 8 equals 76. I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I get 2x equals 68. And then last, we're going to divide by 2. And we get x equals 34. And then last, number 14, if you look here, you can see that we don't know what either of these angles are equal to, right? This side over here is 4x plus 2, and this side over here is just 4x. So in this instance, we wouldn't be able to find the missing angle and set the two equal, right? This side, both of them are missing angles. But we know that they have to add up to 90 degrees. Right? So I know that this angle right here plus this angle on this side, both of those together have to add up to give me 90. Right? So it is possible to still solve, right? It's okay if we don't know what one of them is. So I have 4x plus 2 plus 4x equals 90. So I'm going to, again, solve this algebra problem. I'm going to combine my like terms. So I end up with 8x plus 2 equals 90. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. I end up with 8x equals 88. And then when we divide, we get x equals 11.